I was trying to figure out how we're going to, try to explain this whole process. And it comes on you almost every day. You
Yeah.
go, seriously, you go, okay. I went to deliver my little Christmas packages to a very well high rated sniff rehab in my hometown. And the lady saw me down the hall and she goes, "Hey, Tom." I'm like, hey, that's a good thing. Anyway, she says, "Come and see me later because I think I've got somebody for you." And that just goes to show you that be there, just
Yeah.
show up, make yourself available. And even if it's something as mundane as bringing a gift, they see you, they think, okay, you're part of this community. So there it is, another one of those ding.
Good. I know, and I don't, funny when I talked to George too, he was like, "Oh, I've been to so many sales training, but he gave us a great testimonial too, and it's so good to know that you got something out of it." And you were probably
Oh,
thinking,
absolutely.
"Okay, here we go, it's another," but I'm happy that it exceeded your expectations and you didn't have
Well,
to.
it's a lot of it too is, George and I talked about it and we said, okay, go in with it the right attitude.
Hmm.
If you think it's going to be a real pain, it will be. But if you
Hmm.
go in and say, I don't know everything, but maybe I'll learn something that I can utilize. And so when we both sat down and talked about it, maybe we'll get some really good nuggets, something we hadn't thought about it, even though, I started thinking, sure, at the beginning, okay, I've done home health for, 14 years. I've done home care for like 3 years. What are you going to tell me? Well, you've told me a lot. So that was good. Looking back on it, when I was just kind of collecting my thoughts,
Hmm.
things that I really enjoyed and what I thought having that set time once a week at 3 o'clock, it gave you something to focus on. And yes, you reviewed your stuff, you reviewed your homework. I do appreciate you asking us, did we do our homework? Because if you didn't ask, then we probably would have said, well, it wasn't that important anyway. But you asked that. But what George and I would do after, usually as soon as the call ends, either my phone would ring or his phone would ring. And we'd sit there and we'd strategize. What did you think about this? What did you think about this? And as we got closer to the end, we've refined it a significant amount of how we're going to focus our marketing efforts. And it kind of focused you. And I guess that's
Hmm.
probably the best way to describe it is okay, it's really cool. Another thing I thought about was I told you this story, but this one just it rings in my head. When you have the aha moment, okay, where you're sitting there and this really happened about maybe 2.5 weeks ago. Independent living, where they actually have a company already inside helping out with the daily little bits of time, which we've targeted because it's a high wealth area. They don't have to worry about, paying for it or whatever. So I walked in and I talked to the executive director, told him I was there for. She says, we already have one, a company here. And I said, yeah, I figured you probably did. And she asked me, what makes you different? So I was sitting there going, okay, here's the elevator button. Press the elevator, walk in the elevator. You can give your speech. And it was so easy because we practiced it and
Hmm.
just said, okay, we want to specialize in dealing with dementia patients. She says, well, we could use that. So since that little presentation that I spoke with her, I met with the director. They have a nurse manager. I met with her. She wants George to come in and do a program on caring for his parents. And we've been asked to participate in a couple of events. They've personally invited us to come to the events. And it's just exactly what you told us to do. Feel
That's great.
comfortable. Yep.
And you did get some new referrals too out of
Oh
this
yeah,
too.
absolutely, absolutely.
Tell us about that because I know you every week you were coming in telling me you had referrals. So.
Well, it was funny because we I think at first it was frustrating because I knew these people, but I
Hmm.
wasn't getting referrals. So I came up with, and I know this is an old thing, but always be closing. Why are you going out in the first place? You're not going out to give out literature. You're not there to go out and give them candy or whatever. You're there to bring in referrals. So logically, you'd ask the question. Now that I've had a chance to talk with you about our program, have you had any concerns or any needs that you think that we could help you with? Just, it's so natural, but you always close. And even if you get a no, you're a lot closer, as they always say, to a yes if you do that. You're not there to entertain, you're there to actually get business. So that was probably a takeaway. And it's funny because most of them that I get are when I'm there. You know, even though you say you can call me, but if you're there, your chances are significantly better because they can call anybody.
Mhm.
But if you're right in front of them, they can't talk to somebody else because you're there. So that was a key point, I thought. As often as you can get in front of them, see them. You don't have to have a, heart-to-heart talk with them. See them in the hallway. Hey, how are you doing? And always do what you said you were going to do, no matter what. If you told them you were going to look up something or get them something, make sure that you have it in there next time you see them. Because that's, once again, when you set the stage at the beginning of the training, you talked about these are the pillars of how you become a resource to your referral source. And if you adhere to that, it's not going to happen as overnight. You have to gain their trust. And the best way to gain their trust is be a man of your word. So that would be another key thing. And I think it was eye-opening to know how incredibly effective a SNF rehab would be. Not only do you have the short-term rehab, but you also have those referrals that come where they need somebody to stay there on a 24-hour basis.
Now tell me about, I know you and George created the discharge package. Tell me
Mhm.
how that worked for you. You've started to use that, correct?
Absolutely. So what typically you do is you say, I want to have a chance to sit down and chat with you, and just say, what we'd like to do is we'd like to mitigate your bounce backs. We'd like to, I had that happen 2 weeks ago. I went into a SNF rehab I've never been to. I talked with the administrator and he says, what makes you different? I'll go, oh, here we go again. And I said, we have a new discharge package. And the whole purpose of it is what can we do to cut down on the readmission rates? He says, that's wonderful. What was amazing was when I went in to go talk to the social worker, the administrator had already told her all about it. So I went there Monday and she says, I know this is great. She's my only problem. And I kind of knew this because I did the background check, but there was a new social worker and they don't have the funds necessarily, but there might be. You never know. If it's such an easy place to pick fruit, why not at least go for it? What if you're the one that gets the real good one? Yay! So
Great.
that's worked when you just preface it by saying, we want to try to eliminate needless. Same thing goes with home health agencies. I've got a chance to see 3 very, very active home health agencies using that very thing.